Hey all, my name is Paul Borosky and I am the owner of Quality Business Plan. And what I'd like to do today is to introduce you all to my beginner's guide to financial analysis for Walgreens 2022. So the way the video is going to play out is first and foremost going to go ahead and give you all a little bit of background about me, who I am, what I do, and why I do it. After that, I'll then go ahead and introduce Walgreens 2022 Beginner's Guide. I'll give you show y'all the three important sections that is included in the guide, which is the income statement summary and review, and then the balance sheet summary, and then also the findings for various financial ratios. And at the end of the video, I'll also provide y'all with a link to go ahead and click on and purchase if you are interested in buying the Walgreens Beginner's Guide. Also, this link right here will take you to my Beginner's Guide if you're interested in purchasing it after the video. All right, so as promised, a little bit about me. Again, Paul Borosky, MBA, doctoral candidate. I've been writing company financial reports as well as beginner's guides for about the last 5 years. And each year I'll do about 15 to 25 different reviews for public companies. And you can find that information at this link right here. Also, I am the publisher or the author of the Beginner's Guide to Understanding Financial Statements and Financial Ratios. And you can purchase that book or find that book on Amazon.com. And then finally, I am an adjunct professor and subject matter expert in finance. I've been teaching finance for a college for about the last 9 to 10 years. So I've been doing that for a little bit. So I do have some education as well as some teaching experience, backing up my thoughts and ideas for the Beginner's Guide, as well as the financial reports that I publish. All right, so as promised, the star of the show is the Walgreens Beginner's Guide Walgreens 2022 Beginner's Guide to Financial Analysis. And the way that this video is, the way this actual report is structured is I do introduce y'all to the income statement, and I'll show you how the income statement section is structured. Then I show y'all how the balance sheet section is structured. That's the second component. And then finally, I'll go through the financial ratios. The financial ratio section is structured a little bit differently than the other two, but I think you're going to, at the end of the video, see why I approached that actual component the way I did. All right, so the first section, if you do get the Beginner's Guide for Walgreens 2022, it starts off with a summarized income statement for Walgreens. So what I'll do is I went out and researched the 10Ks for Walgreens for the last 5 years, and then I summarized my findings from revenues all the way down to the net income for the last 5 years. After that, I identify important line items for each one of the important line items in the income statement, and then I'll go ahead and I'll provide you all with an in-depth explanation of what that line item is. I'll define it. I'll give it to you in layman's terms, and then I'll also provide you all with some analysis tips when you are evaluating that specific line item. For the second section is the balance sheet, and so what I do for this section is I summarize the balance sheets for the last 5 years. Again, I go out, I'll find the 10Ks for Walgreens for the last 5 years. I summarized them, and I provided that information. This is the information that I found and summarized in the report. After that summary version of the balance sheet, I'll then go ahead and identify important line items, for example, cash. I'll define what that line item means. I'll give it to you in other words, which is layman's terms, and then I'll give you some analysis tips as to what to use when evaluating that specific line item. Now, for the financial ratios, I do approach that section, like I said earlier, in a little bit different of approach for this section. For the financial ratios, I'll break up those ratios into categories, 4 of them specifically: liquidity ratios, asset ratios, profitability ratios, and then debt ratios. For each one of the categories, I'll then identify the financial ratios that I calculated, for example, current ratio, cash ratio, quick ratio, and net working capital, and then I'll provide y'all with the formulas that I used when calculating those specific ratios. And then finally, for each one of the categories, I will go ahead and summarize my findings for each one of those ratios. So these are the ratios calculated for each one of the, these are the ratio calculations, or the then results for each one of the ratios calculated. Once I'm done with that, In each one of those sections, I'm going to identify important ratios for each one of the categories. I'm going to give you an in-depth explanation. For example, the current ratio. I'll explain the current ratio. I'll provide you all with the formula for the current ratio again, and then I'll give it to you in layman's terms, explaining what the current ratio is. And then I'll also identify some tips to use when analyzing that specific current ratio or that specific ratio. And then finally, in each section that I do go into in-depth analysis for the ratio, I'll provide you all with the current ratio. I'll show you the numbers used. So for example, the formula, current assets divided by current liabilities. Then here is the current assets. Here are the numbers that I used. Here are the current liabilities, the dividend, or the denominator. And so here is the denominator for the calculation. And then finally, here is the current ratio. And I'll do this calculation for the important ratios for each one of the categories. All right, so hopefully this information was helpful. If you're interested in buying my Walgreens Beginner's Guide to Financial Analysis, that can be found at this link right here. And yeah, hopefully this video was helpful, and have a great day. Thank you.